Hey, welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. I'm your host, Sal Interdonato. The Black Knight Nation podcast is brought to you by Higher Echelon, a company run by Joe Ross, former Army fullback, former Army assistant coach, former Army officer. Thank you to Higher Echelon for sponsoring this podcast, and also LarryPickett.com. Larry Pickett is our official photographer for Black Knight Nation. Larry was at the East Carolina game, and you can check out his photos at LarryPickett.com. You could also check out a couple cool videos that he got on our YouTube channel. He got the entrance of the team to the field at East Carolina, and he also got the alma mater video. Also, check those out. Those are on our YouTube channel. Give us subscribe, like those, and we really appreciate everybody following us on YouTube and our social media platforms. We're going to talk a few days later. This was a Thursday night game that Army lost 28-6 to East Carolina. Army falls to 1-3. They're 0-2 in the conference. Defending conference champions have lost their first two conference games this season. And, guys, I have Cuthbert here from Sidelines Army, and I have Seth Mendelson from Black Knight Nation. And, it was I wrote in a soon-to-be posted story. It was a little deja vu Groundhog Day. You're down 21-0 to start the game. It wasn't because of turnovers this time. It was because the defense could not stop Eastern Michigan's fast-paced offense, and you put yourself in a hole. And this team's it's really hard to dig out of a hole when you're down 21-0 again, and didn't go well for Army the rest of the way. Cuthbert, let me get your first thoughts on the game and what you saw.
Well, talk about just like another heartbreaking watch. Unlike the North Texas game, this did not have the slow and steady drumbeat of offensive production that allowed us to come back and unfortunately lose in overtime against North Texas. This was a very difficult game to watch. East Carolina came out with a plan. They were running the highest possible tempo offense. It was beyond up tempo for those first few drives. Absolutely had us on our heels. I think that the plays they were running were a little bit gimmicky, and I think that that's why our defense, once we were able to sort of settle down, was able to keep them at bay for the rest of the game. Sal had mentioned he's got some bad weather, so he might be in and out a little bit tonight, just for anybody who's watching. With that said, that second touchdown that East Carolina scored, where Katin Hauser basically looks downfield, sees a one-on-one with their 6 foot whatever wide receiver, and he just puts the ball up and just says, look, we are going to make you stop us, showing absolutely no respect for our secondary. And what do you know? It was a 40-yard touchdown or whatever it was. Very, very difficult to watch. All of that to say, we were down 21-0 going into the second quarter, and we were only down 21-0 going into halftime, and we were only down 21-6 going into the fourth quarter. So there were strands of hope. The biggest issue I'm seeing is our inability to link a quality offensive game with a quality defensive game. We can't seem to do it in the same game. We seem to be having trouble doing it, let alone in the same quarter. It was very, very difficult to watch. The lack of inside running back and the lack of our ability to allow a running back to hit the hole hard and get us 2 or 3 yards in order for us to maintain control of the line of scrimmage so that we can hopefully open it up and drop a pass in on a soft secondary. Obviously, Hayden Reed's drop passes, those were absolute heartbreaks. This is a game that at the end of the first quarter felt completely gone, completely out of our hands. By the end of the third quarter, I thought we still have a chance to do this. And obviously didn't happen. We can't turn the ball over on downs, 3 different times. We've got it 4th and 1. We can't convert in the third quarter. These are absolute killers for the Army offense. The one thing I will say, the absolute praise, the player of the game for Army in a losing effort in my mind was Noah Short. He put the team on his back. The plays that he was making, cannot speak highly enough about his production and what he was able to do, but obviously just the worst possible outcome for us, it feels like. I don't think the sky is falling for the season just yet. Obviously, we're not going to be contending for the AC championship. Bowl game definitely still within our grasp. CIC definitely still within our grasp. But, this is not where we want to be, staring down the barrel of 1-3 at this point. What are your thoughts, Seth?
Well, first of all, let me give a shout out to Larry Pickett for mentioning Black Knight Nation. He was interviewed during the game for the heroics he and his son did back in Highland Falls a few weeks back, saving a life. And they interviewed him, and he was kind enough to mention that he was shooting for Black Knight Nation. So thank you, Larry. If you're here, thank you very much, and we appreciate it. And we love having you on the team. Cuthbert, I think you're being much nicer than I'm going to be. I think, second week in a row, down 21-0. Noah Short, I think, had a fantastic game. I know he listens to us a lot. Great job, Noah. You're the one shining star. I totally agree. But we were outplayed on the field, and in my opinion, we were outcoached. They didn't seem to want to do anything besides what they were already doing that wasn't working, especially in the third quarter and in the early part of the fourth quarter when we all thought we had a chance. The TV announcers were really big. They seem to be behind Army too. They were like, Army has a shot here. Army can get back in this game. We just never did because we kept running the ball up the middle. And they knew it. They had 7-8 guys in the box almost all the time, maybe even more. I mean, maybe these guys were a little bit out of the TV screen. I don't know. And I didn't see anything being done. I asked Monken at the press conference after the game, and he was very gracious. He handled it well, and he's really, I was impressed with that. I said, could you have tried something else? And what I took away from that was, this is what we teach our players. We can't try anything else because this is what we teach them. I get that. But is there anything in the playbook that you teach them that maybe, when you're down by 2.5 or 3 scores, you can go out there and try them to get yourself back in the game? I did not see that. I also didn't see much from the offensive line again. Throughout the game, they're not opening holes. They're not blocking correctly. I'm not a football coach, but I've been to enough football games to know that it definitely wasn't what I expected, and I'm used to from last year, and also in the Kansas State game this year. I think we were outplayed by a better team, and that's number one thing. But if we're going to win, if we're going to get to 6 wins this year, they're going to have to play, and there's a lot of good teams on the schedule. They're going to have to play a better football to get there. And look, Air Force is having a tough time too, but Navy's a good team. So winning the CIC, you got to beat both these. You got to win at Air Force, and you got to beat a decent 4-0 Navy team that's winning. They're winning ugly, but they're winning. Sal, welcome back. Maybe Sal's not back. Cuthbert, you still there?
I'm still here. And Sal, you're on mute. You're on mute, Sal. If you're trying to talk, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm here now, right?
Okay, good. We just finished up our opening remarks.
I'm off an iPad now. My computer died, so I had to go off my daughter's iPad. So, Continue.
Well, we just did the rundown. My thoughts are a little rosier than Seth's. This is ugly. I can't help but feel like we are just a few clicks away from being able to be a very competitive team once again. Obviously, the deeper issues we have at the moment, I feel, are our lack of an inside running game, specifically from our running back core. Because the guys are so banged up and injured, we're lacking the ability to rely on those inside runs. And so as a result, we are relying very heavily on the option and the QB, basically the QB follow. Now, Noah Short, as I said, he did such a fantastic job this game. The problem with the option is if it gets read correctly by the defense and or you make a bad read by the offense, you're risking a fumble basically every play. You're eating 3, 4, 5-yard losses. It's a great way to get behind the chains if they're ready for it. So, with that, I would love to see us kind of opened things up a little bit more. To your point, Seth, I did notice there were a couple of drives early where we were employing an offensive shift, and it seemed like we got away from that a little bit, or at least the offense was setting and then shifting so quickly. It was almost as though that initial set didn't even happen. I would love to see that more. I think Army would be well suited to come up to the line. I know that we like to eat as much clock as possible, but rather than coming to the line with 7 seconds to go, why don't you come up with 12 seconds to go, get completely set, and then do your shift in order to hopefully break that defense up a little bit, at least get them guessing about what we may be doing. We are such a scheme-based team. I would like to think that it wouldn't be that hard to work a couple of new angles into the schemes we already have. But then again, I'm not an offensive coordinator. So what do I know?
Cuthbert, all you have to do is look at what Navy did on against Rice, who also plays an option yesterday. Now, they only scored, I think, 21, 24 points, something like that. But they were running all kinds of crazy plays the entire game. And Rice runs an option, so they're used to it. And, they won the game. That's the bottom line. They won the game. We got to do more of that. We got to do more. I agree with you. We have to do things that, that opens up their defense, that spreads out their defense, the opponent's defense, because they're getting used to what we're doing. And running the ball up the middle, having a quarterback, a 5'10" quarterback, weighs probably less than I do, running the ball up the middle. This isn't Bryson Daly. Bryson Daly got those extra 3-4 yards. Dwayne Coleman's a gritty kid. He's a tough kid. I'm very impressed with him. Very impressed. But he's not 220 pounds and 6'2". They got to do things outside and different things. I don't know what they are, but the option, that's the beauty of the option. That's why Navy and Army do it and Air Force do it. When you're running it right, it works. I don't see that. I see a lot of up the middle plays by the quarterback and by a fullback that goes for, if we're lucky, 2 or 3 yards.
They're going to say, it's about the reads and what they're seeing. But real quick, guys, here's a stat that jumps off the page at you. 2 of 16 on third down, 12%. I mean, that is the absolute worst. And you can't win games and you can't score points when you're 2 of 16 on third down. They were 4 of 9 on fourth down. That is not a good percentage on fourth down if you're going to go for it. I think there's times when they had 4th and short where they ran a power with Coleman, and they ran it to the left side. And guess what? Twice they lost a yard. And I'm thinking, and I wrote it in this quick thoughts coming up, if you're going to run that play, and I know you don't want to play musical quarterbacks, you bring in Cale Helms for that play. You bring in Cale Helms to pick up and force his way, I think one time maybe Coleman and Jake Rendina's legs got pushed into each other, whatever. It wasn't, they weren't moving the chains on offense. And you could say the defense got down 21-0 and they couldn't stop East Carolina at all in the first quarter. But they didn't give up a point after that. They kept Army in the game. The offense didn't do its job. The passing had no rhythm. The passing seemed off when he was throwing to the first, second play of the game. It looked like Samari Howard caught the ball, but they reviewed it and it was an incomplete pass. I mean, that's a play you got to complete. That's a play you got to throw the ball in a spot where your receiver can catch it with ease. The read passes. I know I'm going off. I'm ranting a little bit. I apologize. I'm just trying to get a little in before my computers go here. The read passes are just not great passes to catch. The ones behind them, sure, it looks like a touchdown if it's thrown to a good spot. The 4th down play downfield, he had beaten the defensive back and was waiting for the ball. He was waiting for the ball. He had to go back on the ball. And it was in his hands. If it's in your hands, should you catch it? Yes, I guess. But I mean, it's just that the sideline play where Noah Short ran out of bounds and caught the ball again, it would have been a 20-yard pass play. That was wiped out. The play where Noah Short caught the ball when it was 4th and 12, he gets 11.5. He fights for that 11.5 that he got. Didn't move the chains. I mean, great effort by Noah. but they were just not. The offense has got a lot to. I mean, East Carolina seemed like they had them scout it well. They had them scout it well, but gotta have some answers. So.
Well, I think that's an interesting point. I think teams are getting used to it. They play Navy and they play Army every year now. Last year we might have been, we had I think a better team, but might have caught people by surprise. But now they're getting used to it. They're figuring out what they have to do. I mean, everybody looks at film. That's the whole thing, right? That's all everybody talks about. Is next day they're looking at film of the last game and the next game. So I mean, everybody's doing that. So they're figuring out how to play Army, and they kind of know what we're up to, it seems.
Well, I think, too, especially seeing these last two games, I think we can expect, at least for the next couple of games, every single team on their first drive, they are going to be looking to go up tempo, and they're going to be looking to try and push us as hard as possible immediately, likely through the air. And if they're smart, they're going to be doing it not by taking risks, but by working up a couple of pass plays maybe that they haven't yet run this year that our defense isn't going to be expecting, because what they're seeing in these last two games is if you hit the ground with your foot on the gas, you will get touchdowns before the Army defense can get themselves settled down and locked in. And, this is a perfect example. ECU scored on the first three drives. They didn't score again until late in the game. But if you can do that, and then your defense can hang on just enough, you can get a win. I mean, we've seen it now, 2 games where teams are just coming out and just throttling the offense. Ven Davis just had a comment here, fantastic comment, need to bring more pressure. Their QB has too much time to throw. How many, I don't know what the stat is, how many sacks has the Army defense produced this year? Have we got one?
Yeah, maybe one per game, average one.
Yeah, I would say about
Gavin Shields had one. Gavin Shields had one on the pressure, right? Yeah.
I feel like we haven't seen one since Tarleton State. I mean, I'm probably wrong on that, but our defense is not able to get pressure, and the American Conference is a conference of high-powered G5 offenses, so it's pass-heavy and it's speed-based. And if we can't get pressure on these quarterbacks, they're not going to be making mistakes. They're going to be picking apart our secondary. Like, I mentioned it at the tip of this podcast, where on their second drive, he basically just throws up a 50-50 ball. Caton Hauser throws up a 50-50 ball, knowing, or expecting, I should say, that their taller wide receiver is going to be able to just pick it right out of our hands. And that's effectively exactly what happened for a touchdown.
That's the way to beat Army about the decades. That's the way to beat Army.
The deep pass down, Cuthbert, the one in the end zone where Mays was in coverage.
I think that was it. Yeah, that second touchdown.
To be honest with you, that was a great throw. I mean, he put it in a good spot.
I mean
the guy didn't have to jump up. That's a good play. Sometimes you tip your cap. I mean, it's not like Mays was all over him, but he had to put it in the right spot. We want to go to ammo here, saying Coleman isn't a strong enough quarterback in his opinion. Helms looks more promising. Need Buchanan type of fullback. Loss of Udo, really hurting. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to digest there. I mean, you're gonna Cuthbert and Seth. We talked about this. I think they're just gonna this musical quarterback thing. Who knows? Maybe Kel Helms will start against UAB. I don't know. Do we know? Who knows?
Hey, Kel Helms came out last week, and they scored 3 quick touchdowns over his turnovers. So I know. I don't know if he's any better.
I would be happy to see a quarterback by committee, honestly. And I know that I mention it just about every week this year, especially because we have these 2 players who have different skill sets. They've both had success. They've both had failures. But I was honestly one of the sort of bright spots of my Army fandom was the years where we're actually able to make it work, where we have more than one quarterback and we can be cycling guys in and out, and we can have designated play sets, maybe designed drives, keeping the defense on their toes. I have no problem with Dwayne Coleman coming in, mostly running out of the shotgun, and the defense knowing, okay, this is likely going to be either a midline option or a pass play, Cale Helms comes in and the defense thinks to themselves, okay, expect a QB follow, expect a fullback dive. They're going to be going up the middle, because I think we can use that to play to their strengths. I mean, neither of these guys are an NFL caliber passer. They can both put the ball where it needs to be. We have seen that this year. It doesn't mean that they're both perfect all the time, but they both are able to run and they're both able to pass. Helms is a little bit better of a runner, or I should say maybe a different style of runner. Coleman, I feel like I like him a little bit more in the pocket, but I think Cody Worley can help design a system wherein we can rotate them both in. This is a selfless team. This is a team first mentality. That is the Jeff Monken ethos. So that's something I would be totally fine to see for me personally.
Sal, you're on mute.
Chuck Phillips, I really appreciate you guys and your takes every weekend. It's just going to be one of those years, peaks and valleys. So much talent was lost from last year's team. We appreciate Chuck taking some time to watch us. John Matheson said, Jesus can't cover someone in 6 to 7 seconds. We need to blitz more. In his opinion, we will give up some plays in the back end, but every quarterback we played has plenty of time to pick us apart and eat pressure. They're going with that soft zone too, right? I mean, they played kind of the same defense to a point that they played against North Texas. And at least that's the way it looked. I don't know what you guys thought there.
I agree with you.
And here's John saying, don't turn it over. Offense can move the ball. We will get it figured out. A couple things I want to talk about real quick. The last touchdown by East Carolina, which in the bigger picture doesn't mean much, right? It's 21-8. They just tack on. But the way they scored on the fake field goal and the 32-yard run by the holder. And I was listening to the game. I was working. I was listening to the game on radio. And I'll give Rich DeMarco, play-by-play voice for the Army football, a lot of credit. He saw them switch holders way before the play was even hyped. He knew that the number 2 holder was in the game for East Carolina. Did the coaching staff for Army know that the number 2 holder was
Monken
in?
talked about it at the press conference. Monken talked about it.
Tell me about it, Seth.
He said they did know. They saw him come in, and I guess there was a lack of communication, as I recall, and we can go back to the tape. He said there was a lack of communication to get it into the team on the field, that the number 2 holder was in there, and then basically they put too many guys against too few guys on Army, and created an alley for this guy to score. But Monken said they knew he was in there.
I don't know. I just like that was disappointing, because it's 21. It's 21-6, right? And Army's hanging around. That was the final nail. And just also. They're starting a possession, right? And they ran that double reverse pass and they didn't throw it. Right. When I see that on offense, they're trying to pull out all the stops to try to move the football, right? They're 2 for 16 on third down. I just didn't get the play call right there. I think they had some pretty good field position, and almost like they kind of threw away down, even though we weren't at the game. We don't know if Coleman was open. They were trying to throw to Dwayne Coleman that play.
They said he was open. The announcer said he was open. We didn't see it, but I don't know if he was or not.
And when I was listening to radio, they said that he really didn't have a great window to throw it. It had to be thrown right away. So he kept it, and he didn't at least throw it up in the air to get picked off, Samari Howard. But I don't know. I mean, to call those type of plays, there's just I really don't have any answers on the offensive end.
Let's take that a step further. Why go for a 2-point conversion on the first? You're down 21-6. You get the extra point. You're down 2 scores. Now you got to go for a 2-point. Monken said that. Yeah. I asked the question again. Why do it? Maybe somebody else asked it. He said, the reason was if we get that, then we can go for a 1-1 and we're winning 22-21. Well, you're assuming a lot of things. You're assuming they're not going to score again. And you're assuming you're going to score 2 more times. Why not go for the 1 point? Get the point. If you're going to go for a 2-point, you don't need to go for a 2-point conversion ever.
Not there. Not there.
Not 21-7, 21-14, or 21-all. you want to tie the game up and then maybe win in overtime or win late, whatever it might be. I was surprised by that. I don't understand it, scratching my head. But he had his theory was, let's get it over with. Let's get it. If we convert it, we're a little bit ahead of the game. Okay, but if you don't convert it, you're behind the game again. And takes a little bit of the juice out of the team too. The fact that
with respect to Coach Monken, I saw that as a we are planting our flag in the ground. We've gotten our touchdown, and now to really sort of, pardon the pun, bolster the troops, we're going to see if we can punch it in to get the extra 2 points to really help sort of, I don't know, I'll say help morale, but help momentum, on our sideline, make us feel like, hey, we're in this. We definitely can come back. But it's like you said, then you miss it, and now you're down 15, and it's a big risk. Is it worth the ROI? Maybe not.
15 on the road too. 15 on the road. So
in the fourth quarter, you're just gonna have these two scores. I don't know.
That was the third quarter, but yeah, it's still.
Oh, was it? Oh yeah, that's right. At the beginning of the third quarter, my fault. I mean, it's like analytics. I mean, the analytics told them to do it. I guess I would just wish sometimes coaches would coach with their gut more than look at the book. Look at this analytics book. You've been coaching for 25 plus years. You have to look at an analytics book sometimes to tell you, hey, go for 2. Maybe that was coach's gut feeling. I don't know. But, the whole analytics thing is a topic for another day. Anything else you want to say about this game? They were, you could use the short rest excuse, which I didn't use in my writing. I don't care if it was, 5 days. East Carolina had the same amount of time. They played a better team. Well, they played a good team in BYU at home. Army played a pretty good North Texas team at home. But I don't know. I just I thought they would respond a little bit more in this game from the start, and it seemed like East Carolina kind of jumped on them. They had the home field, and then they just couldn't get much of a rhythm. Army got 2 turnovers, right? I mean, Steve Mendoza picked off. Yeah, they won the turnover battle and lost. I think it's the 4th time in Jeff Monken's career at Army that they won the turnover battle and lost. And if I can go back to the I did a stat on this on the 2 for 16 and on third down. I think 7 of the times they had third down, it was 6 or more yards that they needed on third down to get. And so when you're playing behind schedule like that, it's just not good. It's just not good. And you got to something's got to change. I know Noah Short had his second 100-yard game. I know they were they kind of, East Carolina was giving them the outside, so to speak, and Army did take advantage of it especially on the 60-yard run by Noah. But man, Cody Worley, offensive coordinator, everything he seemed to do last year worked really well. I know he has some answers to what they're doing. I guess it's execution. Everybody doing their job and getting the blocks on the edge, getting on the blocks inside, not getting them blowing up a double team and getting in the backfield and totally blowing up a fullback play. I mean, Seth, I didn't even look at the stats, but the fullbacks weren't too active in the game.
No,
right?
not at all.
I mean, it was not. You didn't get a lot of production from your fullbacks. Even Dwayne Coleman, I think it was 2.3 yards a carry, maybe something like that. 52 yards, 20-something carries. I mean, it's not there.
Yeah. Reed got 3 carries, 4 yards. Smith 1 carry, 3. Bartosz 6 carries, 14. I mean, they were going up the middle. I mean, the middle wasn't open. It just wasn't open for these guys. And the big runs were Noah Short going outside. And, of course, the 60-yard run to set up the touchdown.
And you know what here, guys, in this game, I thought they did a good – now, is Brady Anderson Ryan Williams of Alabama? No. But Brady Anderson was a key receiver for them in the first 3 games. And I don't even know if he got a target in the game. I think they said, okay, we're going to play man-to-man on Brady Anderson, and then we'll see who else they got to throw to somebody else, And I'm surprised they do – I think he caught 3 passes, but to get Noah Short downfield on a play or 2 in the passing game, you snuck – if you could sneak Hayden Reed out for open passes, somehow you can get a throw down to Noah Short that's 15 to 20 yards down the field instead of giving him a sideline play where he has to like fight for every yard he can get. I will say they did throw to the tight end in this game. Parker Poloski converted a fourth down on a really nice play, and you saw that, and you're like, okay, and then moving the chains the rest of the game, except for that touchdown drive, was a challenge. So
it's good to see Parker catch a ball again. And I agree with you about Noah Short. He had 4 catches, 13 yards total. You got to take advantage of this kid. He's fast, and he seems to have a great sense for the ball. And there's got to be somebody else who's fast on this team that maybe you get 2 guys out there. But, and I agree with you. Brady Anderson, I mean, they didn't throw the ball to him once. I mean, come on.
And you can run, even if they're covering him pretty good, you can run patterns where you can get him at least a look. And you don't have to throw the ball 30 yards down the field for that. You don't have to do that. But I don't know. It's a frustrating game. I'm glad it's Sunday already, and we're going to be focused on UAB, a game that Army's favored by. I think it was 8.5 at one point they were favored by. Now it's 5.5, a team that Army had its way with last year, but we know this is a new Army team. But, man, they really got to get a win. These next 2 games, they have to win if they want to get back on track. They can't take any more L's in these next 2 games.
I totally agree. These 2 games are important, and UAB is better than they were last year. I don't know how much better, but a little bit better. And we're not as good, I don't think. This could be one of those games where, this is an important game, like you said. And the next game against Charlotte's just as important. If you want to get to those 6 wins or 7, or even, I guess you can still win, 9 games still, but I don't think that's possible. But, 6 or 7 or 8 wins and make it a decent season, you got to win this game this week. This is a must win.
This is an absolute must win. And I think this is also a very winnable game. I think probably the teams who are coming up against Army, who see us on the schedule, they're probably smelling blood in the water. As I said before, we've had 2 straight games that felt like the Army Tulane AC Championship of 2024, except this time the shoe is on the other foot. 2 games in a row where first 3-4 drives of the game, we can't seem to do one thing right, and the opposition seems to be doing absolutely everything right, and we find ourselves fighting from behind. I don't think this team has a lot of quit in them, which I think is really, really good. That's what makes me somewhat optimistic. I feel like if we can get these tweaks, I don't want to lay it all at the feet of the coaching staff, mostly because I really like the coaching staff. I think that they are a fantastic staff. I mean, that starts at Monken and goes all the way down. But we've got to get some better decision-making in terms of what we are telling our players to do. We can't be going back to the same well if it's not drawing water. So I understand that as Coach said in the postgame, this is our scheme. This is how we coach our players. This is how we play. That's true to an extent. And then it's time to start trying to make some moves. I know that we don't run a true wishbone offense, but the idea behind the wishbone, the idea behind the triple option is disguising what you are doing. And when you all start talking about Navy, I feel like for years they have had a much more diverse playbook than we have. When we run our playbook and we run it effectively, that's exactly how I want to play. And that's how we play, and that's how we win. We did it last year. We've done it in years past. But if we don't have the talent because maybe our running back core is a little too banged up, maybe our offensive line is a little inexperienced, maybe our quarterback play is a little more inconsistent. I mean, these are trials and tribulations all teams have to go through. So these are not unique challenges to Army, but we have to be able to adjust to those challenges and see if we can meet the moment. And I don't know, if we play more games like we did on Thursday, I don't think we're going to be meeting many moments.
I agree.
Yeah. I guess if you want to look at a positive, the punting, James Wagenseller, even though he didn't punt against North Texas, he was very good against East Carolina. That 71-yard punt.
71-yarder.
Punting perfection, as it was called on the ESPN call. He had a really good game. And like I said, the defense, they forced 2 turnovers. They shut down East Carolina from the first quarter on. But like Cuthbert said, you got to be ready to play against these fast-paced offenses, and you got to be able to get off the field somehow, some way. It seemed like the defense was pretty close to making some plays that weren't turnovers in the game, and they were just a hair off, or like you saw maybe a little bit of maybe frustration on the players. Say, dang, I can't believe they caught the ball. I was in pretty good coverage. I was in position. Maybe I should have had the ball, or maybe I should have made the play. And they didn't. Give Eric Ford a lot of credit for swiping that pitch up and recovering it. Man, you wish that could have been a scoop and score. You wish the ball bounced another way where there was another Army player ready to pounce on and go, because that would have been a game-changing play in the first half. It was a game-changing play. How many times did East Carolina get into the red zone against Army? This game could have been a lot worse than 28-6. I think they had 2 or 3 other opportunities where Army, I know 2 turnovers at least in the red zone that Army got, and I think they stopped them maybe also near the red zone too. It could have got really messy. So give credit to the defense for responding. They just need to get it together a little bit earlier. Anything else you guys want to bring up about the game, or anything?
Well, I'd like to talk about something. If we're done talking about the game in the future, there is something I'd like to bring up that's kind of that happened. It's football related, but it's not Army football indirectly. This week, a man named Bill, and I'm not going to pronounce his name correctly, Giunco, Giunco, in his mid-80s, passed away. Bill was also known as by Rabble. He's on all these Army chat rooms. He's been an Army fan since the early 1950s. Apparently collected programs from every game he went to, home and away. Went to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games. I got to know him through the Army chat rooms probably 20 years ago, and he was there. I think he went to games through last year. I don't know if he was at a game this year or not. But this guy was the ultimate Army fan. He talked about how his family took him up to a game at West Point in the late 40s, I think, 46 or 47 maybe, and he got hooked. And he's from New Jersey. He made the ride up. He sometimes drove up to West Point for away games to listen to the away game on the radio, because it was only broadcast around West Point. So I just want to mention him. This is a true Army fan. He didn't go to the academy, but this is something I've got to know him a little bit, and God bless him, and may he rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace, Rabble. I mean, when I was first covering the beat, right, that Army form, that Army sports form, which is now something else, right? I forget what it's called right now, Academy Wars or something like that.
Yeah, Academy Wars.
That was a place to go to talk about Army football, and he was leading a lot of the topics, right? He was leading a lot of topics. He was giving me a little view into the history of Army football. He knew a lot about the history of Army football. Yeah, that's a loss for the Army, for Black Knight Nation. Black Knight Nation and the Army fans. I mean, he was definitely a guy who bled Army black and gold, no doubt. You could tell in his writing. And sorry to hear that, Seth. I'm glad you brought that up. Really sorry to hear that.
Well, that's it for me. We got a big game, as we said. We have a big game ahead, and these are winnable games. The next 2 games are winnable games. And one away, one at home, and let's just hope we can, start out strong. Anton Thomas said that, hey, we got to pick it up. Defense played great from second quarter on, whatever it was. We got to come out of the gate and play great, and I'm sure that they're going to be talking about it in practice. They had a couple extra days to rest. That's the upside of a short week. Now you have a long week, and hopefully they'll turn it around. Be interesting to see who starts at quarterback this week, and I'm sure we'll know more in a couple of days, but they won't make a decision probably till Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, who knows if we'll even know. Maybe it's best that we don't even know. Just start whoever had the best week of practice and see what. Real quick, I had somebody ask me during the game, are we going to see QB3 in this game? Well, QB3 right now is Zach Mundell, a senior who hasn't had any snaps, I don't believe, at quarterback in his college career. I think if we get to a point where it's midseason and there's still questionable play at QB, I don't know if they'll look to some of the younger quarterbacks, some of the freshmen on the roster, and say, hey, maybe we give Bryson Luter a chance. Maybe we get Godspeed Nawahi a chance. Maybe we need a spark. And I think if you have a veteran offense, you can do that. You have Reed, you have Short, you have guys who are seniors. If the offensive line maybe comes together and plays a little bit better than it did against East Carolina, maybe you can do that. But will we see QB3? Who knows? But they do have to get some consistency of play at the quarterback position. And like Cuthbert said, if it's going to be by committee, let it be by committee. I don't know if I want 2 or 3 guys going in a game at once like they did it back in the Tyler, Christian Anderson, and Jamel Jones days, but they got to get better play from that position because you look at like even I was watching the Air Force game. Seth, they lost that game to Hawaii, right?
They did. They lost.
Yep.
Yeah, but the quarterback played Inspire football. I saw him running for a touchdown later in the game. And we know Blake Horvath, what he brings to the table. Academy football teams need solid play from their quarterback. And if they don't get it and they get inconsistent play, the defense is going to have to play games of their lives to keep the team in and have a chance to win. So we'll see. The penalties I didn't see any penalties from Army that were right. Seth, they didn't have many penalties. Cuthbert, they didn't have many penalties in this game against East Carolina.
Penalties were not penalties and turnover were not factors for Army tonight on Saturday. On Thursday.
Inconsistent play. So let's see if they can get back on track. We'll be back here next weekend with the UAB recap. But for now, we really appreciate you guys joining us and the comments and the questions. All great. Check out BlackKnightNation.com. Seth will be writing his articles. I'll be chiming in with my stuff too. Cuthbert will be all over social media. Cuthbert, where can they find you? Right there's your handle on Twitter.
Yeah,
right? X.
Look me up on Twitter at Sidelines Army, Sidelines West Point. And I don't just cover football. I talk about all things Army sports. And then also I do a spot for the Greenville Sports Media each week where I do a little 10, 15-minute hit about the larger American conference. I always give, obviously, preferential treatment to my Black Knights. But, look me up there.
There you go. Check our social medias out, our Instagram, Black Knight Nation, our YouTube channel at Black Knight Nation, and the Facebook Black Knight Nation page is up to 1,500 followers right now, which is about 500 boosts since the beginning of the season. So really appreciate all you guys following us on Facebook. Thank you tonight. I'll do better with my computer next time. But Cuthbert and Seth, thanks for holding the fort while I was away. And enjoy your night, guys. And we'll be back for another edition of Black Knight Nation very soon. Thanks a lot.
Go Army.
Go Army.